Yeah. Hi, everybody. We're going to give everyone just a minute or two to jump on. And as we're waiting, if you're just joining us, the question of the day is, what is your favorite thing about fall? Hoodies, yeah. Sports, the end of hurricane season. Oh, sad. Hiking without poison ivy and ticks, for real. Camping weather. Oh, yeah. I wish I was in Vermont to see the leaves change. Fall equals summer in San Francisco. Is that true?
Generally, September, October are our nicest months.
Oh, interesting.
It's like a few years ago when we had a major heat wave, it was like 115 in September. Yeah, it's very weird.
What is that? That old Mark Twain quote, the coldest winter I ever felt was summer in San Francisco.
That's absolutely right.
Exactly.
True.
Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to this week's Friday Animal Welfare Leadership Roundup call. We have a very exciting topic for today. My name is Kristen Hassan. I work for American Pets Alive. And before we get started into the agenda for today, I want to turn it over to Mary Smith from Maddie's Fund.
Good morning, everybody. It's really great to see you all. It's been kind of an incredible week. I have to tell you, Brian and Ashley, I've had you guys in my head for at least the past 8 or 9 days. And I don't think that's a bad thing, to be honest with you. I think it's actually kind of a good thing. And I'm going to tell you guys why I think it's a good thing. So here's some of the takeaway I have had from being focused on Philanthropy Week. And I guess full disclosure, I have to tell you guys, I started out in animal welfare as a grant writer. So development has always been sort of my second skin. But here's what I really loved about the messaging that I heard over the past week, and that is we all have to be involved in philanthropy. We are philanthropy ambassadors. And when we think about our organizations and the incredible work that's being done, the fact that we get to be spokespeople for our organizations is really kind of remarkable. And really what Brian and Ashley have spent a lot of time talking about, and others on the Philanthropy Working Group, is this idea that relationships are created, connections are made. And it's not really ever about the money. The money is really sort of the very last thing. It's really about building up these well springs of support. And I love this idea of the most important things that are going to happen in your own backyard, because that's really where those connections are made in terms of people that work for your organizations, for people that volunteer for your organization, for everybody that walks through your door. Is the potential for you deputizing as a philanthropy ambassador. And I just really love those ideas. And the other thing that I think is such an important takeaway is the idea that marketing and communications and philanthropy all need to be working together. You can't have those three entities siloed, because really your brand is all about everything that you do. Marketing is the vehicle by which you push it out and tell the world what a great job you're doing. And philanthropy adds another dimension to that, because the philanthropy teams that I've met have always done an incredible job of being able to take the work that you do and translate it into how you are achieving your mission. And that's really the kind of messaging we should all be involved in. So Brian and Ashley, thank you a lot. I really appreciate being on this journey with you all. And I look forward to even more work being done with that toolkit. So didn't mean to steal anybody's thunder, but I thought it was a neat way to just say thank you to the Philanthropy Working Group for the amazing job that's being done. And with that, I am out.
Mary, I was just going to say we could just let you roll through the whole thing.
Yes.
It's all good.
Okay, thank you, Mary. So just a couple of things we want to share before we get started into our speakers for today. I think Dr. Levy is on the call to talk a little bit about a situation in Orlando. Dr. Levy, are you with us?
I am here, Kristen. And for those who haven't heard, we just wanted to share that there was a fire at the Pet Alliance shelter in Greater Orlando Wednesday night that very tragically killed 13 cats at last report. There were 4 still missing. There were heroic efforts by first responders overnight. This occurred in the middle of the night in the dark. There's just riveting video of the firefighters and the sheriff's deputies saving the dogs and a lot of the cats until they were beaten back by the flames. So please send your good wishes to our colleagues in Orlando. I will post a link where they are starting a rebuilding fund. They were already planning to build their shelter on another property that they've already owned. And so they will not be rebuilding on the site they are at now.
Thanks. Does anyone want to add anything to that who may be close to that situation? Thanks for sharing, Dr. Levy. And so I'm assuming we should go to the website if there's a call to action or a call for support. Is that correct?
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to turn it over in just a minute to our national organization partners who are on the call. But before we do, I wanted to share a couple of things I'm reading this weekend. And if any of you want to share, this is the time to go grab your book. I'm reading 2 books. One is called Calm the F Down: How to Control What You Can, Accept What You Can't, so you can stop freaking out and get on with your life. If this speaks to you, it's really great. I'm a couple of chapters in. And in this moment, with the work we're all doing, it's really easy to not calm the F down. So that one's a lot of fun. But on a more serious note, this book just came out. This is called Anti-Racism in Animal Advocacy: Igniting Cultural Transformation. It is hot off the presses. It just came out. It is a series of essays, and each one is incredibly impactful and moving and really worth the read. It's a pretty short book, but we're going to try to get some of the authors from these essays to come on the calls and talk about their work they're doing. And this isn't just about companion animal welfare, it's also about farmed animal welfare. So if anyone else wants to share what they're reading, please stick it in the chat, and we want to know. This is sometimes a really good place to share our reading list with each other. And we are looking for someone to start a book club. There are about 150 of us who want to participate in a book club about animal welfare, but not lead it. So if you're that person and you are ready to wrangle all of us to talk about a book we're reading, please email Bobby or I and let us know. Now we're going to turn to any of our national organization partners who are on the call and want to chime in and tell us any announcements or news that we need to know.
Kristen, I'll jump in. Best Friends this morning just launched a really quick kind of pop-up grant opportunity. We're calling it the LifeSaving Resiliency Grants. Just basically in honor of the fact that we know that everybody has been going through a phenomenal resiliency over the course of the past 18 months with constant changes. And so this will be the easiest grant that you could ever possibly apply for. 2 to 3 sentences with a photograph or video of just something innovative that you've done over the course of the last year to help save animals' lives, whether it's a long timer in your shelter, a new cat life-saving program, whatever it happens to be. Share it with us. We'll be reviewing those. They're due the middle of next week, and we're going to make the final review process and issue the grant next Friday. So it's going to be a really quick thing, but we're just looking for some of people's just top ideas, top stories of things that are going on. So check it out. John Dunn just posted a link in the chat.
I know we have other people that want to make announcements. Melanie, you wanted to ask the 2 quick questions of the group live. Do you want to do that now?
Sure. Hello, everybody. Melanie Sadek, Executive Director of Valley Humane Society in Pleasanton. We are about 5 months away from opening a veterinary surgery center in our town. And we've got, this is not going to be a surprise to anybody, but we have at least one veterinarian who is going around talking about how this is a terrible idea. And unfortunately, she caught the ear of a donor who has given us almost $500,000 for this project. And now he's thinking about pulling the money out. And so what I'm looking for is in the chat, if you wouldn't mind, if you can help provide any studies or research that really shows that what we're doing by providing access to veterinary care is helping keep animals out of shelters. That would be outstanding, because essentially this donor doesn't want to support social issues. He wants to support the plight of homeless dogs and cats. And so I just need to be able to not just say all the reasons, but show him data and support. So if anybody has anything, please share it. And lastly, if anybody has had, as we continue to build out our marketing plan and our crisis communication, if you've personally dealt with veterinary pushback, if you've successfully launched a veterinary hospital or surgery center with no pushback, we'd really love to interview you, find out kind of what you did or how you combated kind of the negative. So if you wouldn't mind putting it in the chat, if you'd let one of my team members give you a call, that would be outstanding as well. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Melanie. Any other announcements from our national org partners? All right, then let's get right to it. So this week for the announcement, I sent you a rather confessional announcement that philanthropy and fundraising are anxiety provoking and downright scary for me. I try to avoid most conversations about them, and asking for money just seems like the hardest thing in the world. So I don't usually attend sessions about philanthropy and fundraising, but it is Haas Philanthropy Week. And so we had an amazing presentation by Brian Doherty and Ashley Droscher happen on Tuesday. And as I was sitting there watching and listening, it was totally like taking apart all of the things I've ever thought or felt about philanthropy and completely reframing it in a way that made so much more sense to me. And also for the first time ever made it sound not scary and actually really exciting. And so we wanted to bring Brian today because so many folks on these calls have told us how fundraising continues to be a struggle. There's some nervousness that your own community may not have the funding to support you and that maybe the money's just not there. And that people are struggling with it. And so we wanted to give most of this hour to our speakers to tell you how they're approaching this, what the results are, and how you as leaders in particular can build a true culture of philanthropy. And I don't think I really knew what a culture of philanthropy meant until this presentation. So Brian and Ashley, thank you so much for being here. We can't wait to hear you talk today. So I'm going to turn the mic over to you all.
Fantastic. So I'm going to go ahead and do the whole screen sharing thing and see if we can do this correctly. All right. Can everybody see the right screen? Can I get some verbal confirmation?
Yes, we got it. Looks good, Brian.
Yes.
Here we go. Thank you. All right. So I have to do a couple things. Kristen, thank you for the email that you sent yesterday and for the comments that you just made on this, because I think you sort of gave voice to something that we on the philanthropy side of the equation see all the time, which is essentially when we tell people what we do, they say, God, I would hate your job. Your job must suck. How on earth can you wake up and do what you do? Boy, and that's a really heartening thing to hear from people when they're like, what you do is so distasteful, it makes me nauseous to even think of it. What we're here to do today is to change that way of thinking and to really hopefully do some of the things that you said happened when you saw the presentation on Tuesday, to share that with a little bit of a wider audience. Whether we want to be in Mary's head or not for the next 7 or 8 days, I'm not going to speak to that, but you know what? We'll see if we can at least leave a couple of nuggets of thought for people to think through this. I also want you to know, Kristen, that you induced a little anxiety in both Ashley and myself by saying that this could be life-changing to people. I don't think in any presentation I've ever done in my life, I've had anybody give a lead in of like, join us for this, it will be life-changing. So I took that pretty seriously. And if I could advance my slide, which I can't seem to do, here we go. So here we are, we're Ashley, we're Brian. Hey, Ashley, jump in and say hey so everybody knows you're here.
Hi, everybody. Excited to present with you this morning.
There we go. So Brian and Ashley. It's the Brian and Ashley show. It is Philanthropy Week. I said on the call the other day, we had a slide to show that this is bigger than Shark Week. We think that it is. It's as simple as that. So I put a couple of slides in to make this life-changing for everybody. And this is what we've got. So we do hard work. That's what we do. So if a pretty poster and a cute saying are all it takes to motivate you, you probably have too easy a job. Robots will replace you soon. I want everyone to be able to leave this straight out of the gate with a couple of sayings that will be life-changing for you. Bend in the road is not the end of the road unless you fail to make that turn. So let's make that turn, people. If at first you don't succeed, don't try skydiving. Probably not for you. Just don't do it. Anybody who knows Stephen Wright knows he has about 1,000 of those. This was the most important. This was really my contribution to this, and that is that life is too short to listen to the Eagles. They're a terrible band, and you shouldn't listen to them. If you like that band and you hate me for saying it, that's happened to me before, but I'm going to go ahead and put that out there. Now, also,
I see people leaving the webinar right now, Brian. Is that normal?
I didn't want them here. That's it.
Okay,
that's how passionately I feel about that topic.
Got it.
And coming back to this, when in doubt, choose change. And that's really what we're here to talk about is change. And so one of the things I want to do is actually have people kind of blow up the chat here with just something that your tip on being life-changing. What's something that a mantra, something to you that's meaningful and will change your life? And Kristen, I'm calling you out since you said this was going to be life-changing to participate and at least put one in to start that going. And then I'm just going to let that run its course. I'm going to move us now into what we're here to talk about today. So I've attended a lot of these Friday calls. I've attended a lot of the Monday calls. There's a lot of momentum. There's a lot of amazing work happening with this Haas movement. But I come in and I hear all of this talk about new programs and we're going to change this and we want to do this and we want to do this. And I recognize that essentially all of those ideas without the resources to actualize them is really just sort of hope. So if we're committed to the Haas movement, if we're committed to changing the way that we're doing our work, to creating a new future for animal welfare, to me and to everyone else I know on our philanthropy committee, and I hope to you, there has to be not necessarily an equal commitment, but a commensurate commitment to philanthropy, to creating a sustainable structure to actually ensure that you can build those programs. So as we look about our goals for today, what are we here to do? We're looking to create a greater understanding of just what this philanthropy thing does in transforming animal welfare and making the programs that we have possible. We're here to give you a better understanding of what that culture of philanthropy is. Hearing Kristen say, look, I don't know that I could have defined what a culture of philanthropy was before the start of this week. Being able to do that when you leave here today, I think is an incredibly important thing, but not just understanding what it is, how to actually build it and then be a part of it. We thought we would also start this slide with what we feel like a young Boris Johnson looked like when he adopted his first animal in the UK. And this is our best guess at that. And it's a good way to get us started in our presentation today. So we're leading into this presentation with a couple of assumptions. One of these we've actually already touched on because Kristen opened up the door to this, but I think any conversation that folks on the philanthropy side are having with folks that really aren't in our world is that most people actually fear this. They like it about as much as they sort of think about it in the way they would think about going to the dentist, getting a root canal, any number of other things. If we don't actually recognize that, I think we're not going to have an authentic conversation. We're going to do a disservice to the conversation we're having. I would also contend that most people in most organizations don't really recognize what the philanthropy team does, and we need to change that. We need to work to much, much better integrate what the philanthropy does throughout the entire organization so that there is truly a connection between those teams and the folks in the operations, whether it's adoptions, animal care, whatever it is. They're not looking at philanthropy as this isolated group of people that just work to raise money. The other thing about this is there are a lot of folks I know that are on this call in small shelters, in municipal shelters, who might be looking and saying, okay, San Diego Humane Society, that's a big shelter. There are big shelters around the country that do this. I don't want to necessarily hear from them. Everything that we are talking about here works for whatever size shelter you have. It just might be scaled a little bit differently. And if we talk about philanthropic impact and transformational change from philanthropy, that number and that figure is likely going to be smaller for a small rural shelter out in the middle of Iowa than it is going to be in San Diego. But the conversations are still the same. And if you're a municipal shelter, there are still ways to raise money and to make an impact on your programs. I would contend for me that while now I work for San Diego Humane Society, we have 550 employees, we raise a lot of money, we do a lot of things. Some of the most impactful work I have ever done in fundraising and animal welfare was for animal rescue groups with no paid staff that had no facility, no nothing, and were essentially always on the verge of going out of business because they never had enough money to sustain their operations. And in helping those groups be able to stay, show them how to raise money, show them how to articulate their case, that's some of the most important work we've done. So everything we're talking about works for big and small shelters. I also think we need to recognize that most people don't have regular interactions with the philanthropy team, nor do we get regular updates on that progress. We'll hear things about this is the number of animals we adopted, we did this, we did that. But how often are you sharing the success that the philanthropy team is having and connecting that to what actually drives the mission and makes it possible? I would contend that we need to celebrate those successes equally throughout the organization and make sure that happens. So why? Why are we here talking about this? Because we have to admit it. At the end of the day, I have very little question that every single person on this call can say, I have a lot of things that we would love to do at our shelter for my program in my world that I cannot do because we do not have the resources to do it. So again, in having an honest conversation about this, the money part matters. If we want to really dig into what the problem is with this, I think we have a couple of these that jump right out. Number one, the needs of pretty much every one of our communities outpace our ability to meet them. We could invest a lot of money in things like community veterinary services, providing free spay-neuter surgeries, but we can't meet the full needs of our community right now. So there's still a greater need to build our programs and a greater need for resources to be able to do that. The other part of this is that so many in our communities positively misunderstand what animal shelters are. When they think of us, what they think of is they're that organization that helps dogs and cats. They help find homes for them. And they have us in a very, very narrow box. And what our job to do through marketing, through communications, through our storytelling, and as the leaders of your shelters, whatever position you're in, if you're the CEO, the president, executive director, chief medical officer, humane law enforcement, I don't care what it is, you are a leader and it is your role to be a part of that storytelling because your actions have a tremendous impact on the rest of the team and your community's ability to understand what you do, because there's a monumental gap pretty much across the board. I think in San Diego, we do a really good job of this. But if I go out into our community and ask people, what is San Diego Humane Society and what do we do? Almost all of them, even animal loving people, are going to go, oh, well, they find homes for dogs and cats. They're not going to talk about the proactive work we're doing to address animal welfare issues at their root cause. They're not going to talk about the safety net programs that we have. They're not going to know that we do wildlife. And when they recognize that, their share of philanthropy that we can get from them, and whether it's philanthropy, advocacy, volunteerism, whatever it is, their willingness to be a part of our organization changes when they actually know what we're doing. So the questions I have for everybody is, right, if you don't have all of the staffing that you need, all the programs, all the technology, if your facilities aren't what you want them to be, if you don't have an endowment that can help you prepare in the future for downturns in the economy, for downturns in hard times, then we all have a need for greater resources and greater philanthropy that we can only achieve by increasing our fundraising capacity and developing a culture of philanthropy at the start. So when we outlined what we were going to look for in talking about philanthropy through Philanthropy Week, we didn't want to spend time talking about, well, do you have a direct mail program? And this is what you should do. And here's what your social media should look like. what we wanted to talk about was really the mindset that we want the entire organization to embrace so that we can actualize our philanthropic goals. Because without this, all of the rest of it really doesn't matter, because you've put a regulator on what your philanthropy team can do if you don't have everyone involved in this process. And I'll jump back to those of you that are thinking, I don't even have a philanthropy team. There are still a ton of things that you can do in carving out small amounts of time to focus on talking about resources, how to get increased resources, and how to build this. So with all of that said, what we're trying to do, quite simply, is to get a larger piece of the philanthropic pie. In this country alone, last year, $471 billion was given away to charity. Just to put this in context, all of the revenue of Major League Baseball before the pandemic, so when things were actually still happening, was about $10 billion. So when we talk about philanthropy as an industry, it is a massive industry. This is not a small thing. Much of the positive change that's happening in our world, whether that's in medical research, whether that's in fighting homelessness, whatever it might be, is being driven because people want to make a difference. And let's make no mistake about this. It is people that drive this change. So when you look at this chart, 4% of this is given by corporations. Pretty much the rest of that pie is given from individuals. And when we really look at this, what we come up with is that 3% of it, we have to jump all the way to the bottom there, is given to the environment and animals. And after doing a fair amount of research into where that 3% goes, I have a very strongly held belief that 1% of that philanthropy goes to animal welfare. If we could change that by better articulating our case for support, being more visible, more active in our communities, creating this culture of philanthropy that engages everyone in the work that we do, if we could just move that to 2%, we would forever transform the resources that animal welfare has to truly address some of the problems that we have and to build our programs. And I will also note that if you look at the top two areas on here, 28% is given to religion and 15% of this philanthropy is given to education. Both of those pieces of the pie are pieces of the pie that I think are just ripe for the picking and going to shrink. Religion as a tradition, as a mainstay in this country, is not what it used to be. There's going to be less going to that. Higher education has massive problems in articulating its value proposition at this point. So I want animal welfare to be at the ready to step in and to take the intellectual investment share of folks who used to be invested in those causes and to bring that over to animal welfare. So I want to stop for a second just so Ashley and I can have a sense of the size of the teams that we're dealing with. Everyone has about 20 seconds to answer this poll. We are fast poll people here. I'm talking really quickly because we have a lot of stuff to get through on this presentation. So everyone, go to the poll. What's the size of your philanthropy team at your organization? Let's see what we do here. Now we do the fill time. Well, everybody, I could do, Bobby, can you come in and do like the Jeopardy theme song? All right, so we've got it. Looks like we've got 20% say 0, 57% say 1 to 4. A couple say more than 20, a couple say don't know. This was actually really a trick question, because what I want everyone to do when you leave this presentation is to say the size of my philanthropy team is the size of my entire organization, because everyone is a part of that team. If you are just looking at the one person on your staff that's in charge of philanthropy to create this culture and to be it, it's never going to happen. So thank you for participating in my little trick question. It's something that I really do think is absolutely critical as we look at how to do this. So the mindset that we have, I think, again, outside of philanthropy, is that building programs is fun. I think everyone who comes to these Friday calls has had an amazing time hearing about all of the incredible work that's happening in fundraising. I absolutely think that most of the folks think that fundraising isn't fun. And what I do hope that we can do is at the end of this call and in other things, we can change that mindset. And I also want to change the language, which we're going to get to. But philanthropy is not only fun, it's imperative. It is built into everything that we do. This problem isn't new, but we have to admit that it's actually a problem, because if we don't address it head on, it'll never get fixed. This is a report that comes from Board Source. This is actually boards of nonprofits assessing where they are effective and where they're not. And every year that this survey has been done since the 1970s, the thing that boards recognize they need to work more on and the organization needs to work more on is fundraising. It's literally been going on for 30 years and they haven't changed it. It's absurd. So this problem is something that plagues organizations around the country. What we want to do is fix that problem. What I'm going to do is hand this over to my friend Ashley now, who's going to chat with you about some of the ways we're looking to do that.
Our work is too big. Our work is too vital. Our work is too important to can allow this problem to continue. So let's make the commitment. In fact, according to my friend Albert here, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results is the definition of insanity. So let's make a promise right now that we're going to stop executing the same thing over and over again and expect to raise an additional 10%. If we want to see different results, we need to do something different. And it starts with changing how all staff think about and engage in philanthropy, which is exactly what Brian has been saying. In fact, everyone, and I mean everyone, every member of your staff is responsible for your organizational culture. They either contribute to it or they tear it down. No exceptions. So if you're going to make a shift in thinking about revenue generation, you need to consider about how everyone from yourself through your entire organization is going to think about it differently. So the first thing, change your language, change how you talk about fundraising. So what if today I stepped up to a member of our adoptions team and I said, guess what? Today you get to be a fundraiser. I don't think they'd be too excited with me. But what if I said, hey, today, would you be willing to help our philanthropic efforts? Okay, they might be interested in raising and talking to me a little bit more. But what if I take that one step further and said, what if today I want you to share your passion for what you do? I want you to talk to somebody like their friend. I think they could do that. And I think every member of your team can do that. And that's what we're talking about. So let's define philanthropy. It's originally from Greek, meaning love for mankind, but really what it is, it's about sharing what you know. It's about sharing who you are and what you do. It's about sharing those things to make a meaningful, measurable chance. See, every day your organization saves lives, it builds families, it keeps families together. And if you're using your time and passion to tell these stories, you're going to be able to make meaningful, measurable change. So let's make a little definition here between fundraising, development, and philanthropy, because they're very, very different. First, fundraising is asking for money. So, hey, Brian, will you give me $10?
Ashley, no, that sounds pretty rude. I won't do it.
Dang it. All right. Well, hey, Brian, will you have a conversation with me? We need some cash, and I'd like to tell you what we need some cash for.
I guess so, if I have to.
You do. So, hey, what if we do this? Hey, Brian, we're doing some really kick-ass things here in Alexandria. Can I tell you about it?
That sounds like a lot of fun. Let's chat about that, Ashley. Can I pay for lunch?
Absolutely, you can. So let's go with this. What if every member of your staff talked about passion about your mission? What about everybody who looked at anybody, whether in the grocery store or making an adoption? What if they saw those people as potential people who want to learn about your work? And what if every day your staff came to work excited to share about their passion and their work and how they're making a difference in the community? So let's throw up another poll here. Ask yourself, when I have a role, and do you understand your role as it relates to philanthropy when attending events for your organization? You got 20 seconds and I'm not singing an Eagles song.
It's a good opportunity for someone on the call to shine and really show that they can sing a cappella.
Bobby?
So Bobby's taking care of it.
All right, let's see those results. Great, fantastic. So 65% are saying they strongly agree. In fact, if we add that up, that's what, my math here this morning, that's saying more than 90% are saying they strongly agree or agree, which is fantastic results. So hopefully this is hitting home to you. So to take us even further, I'm going to throw this back over to my colleague, Brian.
I'm actually blown away to see that percentage of folks saying that they really understand and recognize their role. And that's fantastic. So it lets me know there is certainly some of the work's getting done. I think one of the things in thinking about this as a mindset and building on what Ashley was talking about, one of the things that I think frightens people in talking about philanthropy is this idea that we're asking for money. And one of the things that we talk about here is that I tell our entire team, pre-COVID, I would speak at all of our new hire orientations. And I would tell everyone in there about my job and what I do. And I'd say, but I never ask for money. What we do is we give people an opportunity to invest in making change. We give people an opportunity to invest in making the world that they want and inspiring compassion and creating a more humane society. Does that sound like something that would be of interest to you? That's a very different conversation than what Ashley just went through of, can you give us $10 to save some puppies? What we're asking for is, can you partner with us? It's not, can you give us anything? We're inviting you to invest in our cause, to partner with us. Again, the language and the mindset that we bring to this is absolutely critical, not just in how we feel and the comfort level that our entire team has around this, but about how the person on the other end of this is going to receive it and feel it. We're essentially asking, and I think this is an important distinction to draw on this. We don't ask people to give to San Diego Humane Society. We want them to give through us to make the change that they want in the world. Because we have literally millions of people in this country who want a better world for animals. Most of them can't make that change on their own. We are the people and we are the organizations who can actualize that. We are the ones that can make that happen. So in helping to do this, one of the solutions for this is, again, recognizing our role as leaders, because this group is different than a lot of others throughout the organization. And recognizing, hearing, really, I think, Kristen, you've given a lot of great things to focus on in your willingness to say, look, I was uncomfortable talking about philanthropy. It made me uneasy, made me break out in a cold sweat. I don't want anything to do with it, because the whole organization can see that type of discomfort when we're talking about philanthropy. And when we change that, we can get everybody involved to share their passion. And that's all we're asking for. Again, this is really not about asking for money. It's about sharing passion. So what are we looking for from leadership? It's a couple of pretty simple things. We've kind of broken down the way that we do this at San Diego Humane Society to say our entire role is we educate, we inspire, and we engage. And if we can do those three things, it is going to lend itself to greater philanthropic support, greater volunteerism, greater advocacy throughout our community. And education without inspiration just falls flat. I'm sure many of you have had instructors, professors in your life, people that are super smart. They can give you an education. They could talk to you about what they wanted, but it wasn't inspirational. We need to be compelling, to be able to talk about the things that we are changing and that we're making happen. One of the amazing things about animal welfare that I think also positions it to take a larger piece of that philanthropic pie is, if you look at what has happened in animal welfare in the last 20 to 30 years, it is absolutely stunning, the growth that's taken place, the change that has been made, and the impact that's been had. We can communicate that with our vision for the future and invite people to partner with us in making that happen. So again, your last role on this is to actually lead that change. And where we're going to go now is basically getting into, what does that leadership look like? Because this culture that we're talking about, any culture of philanthropy, the culture of your organization, it's either something that's thoughtfully laid out, proactively taken to actually create and make happen, or it just happens because it just does, because the people are there and the culture's there. The culture might be that we're a really nice group of people. The culture might be, well, you know what? We actually allow people to show up late for meetings and be really rude and other things. So what I'm saying, if we want a culture of philanthropy, if there is not a specific path that's being laid out for that, then your culture is going to be haphazard. It will never be optimized. So what we're looking for is for everyone to be able to go back from this conversation and say, what's my role as a leader to help bring this to life? Because we have to recognize that the culture that we have in our organizations is what we allow to happen. There's also this super famous quote about culture. If you're ever going to do any presentation or go to one on culture, it's hard to not see this quote come up. So, culture eats strategy for breakfast. Peter Drucker said this. It's been picked up in a lot of things. I think it's actually a critical thing to understand. because you can talk strategically about everything you want for your organization. You can have a great cause, you can have a great mission, you can have so many things. But if your culture is crap, you won't have the people stay that you want to stay. You will not have the resources that you want to have. So instead of just creating a plan, an operational plan that outlines our goals that are in numbers, we're going to increase, X by X, and we're going to do this by Z. Think about what are the investments you need to make in your culture. And as a part of that, I certainly want it to be your culture of philanthropy, but it has to be thoughtful, it has to be proactive, and someone basically needs to lead that charge. Because we have to recognize the culture that we have is learned. Culture is not something that turns on a dime. It takes time to develop. Everyone could leave today's session saying, I'm going to start our culture right now. And then you could get to the end of next Friday and you'd go, you know what, our culture didn't move. That's okay. This is a long-term investment. This is a longitudinal sort of effort, and we want to make sure that we recognize that. Everyone on this call is starting this effort in a completely different space. Again, some folks have no fundraising staff. Other folks have a good amount and a lot of work that's been done. But find a place you're starting and make the changes, because if it were easy, we would all already have it. And it's not easy, because there are a lot of built-in, very deeply seated things that are built into people having not just a fear, but kind of an animosity towards fundraising. Again, I'm not joking that when I tell people what I do, routinely the answer is, your job would be terrible. I would hate your job. I couldn't do it. How do you do it? Because people think it's so distasteful what I do. And then I have to have a conversation with them to say, let me share with you why I love my job. Because what I get to do is talk about something that I'm passionate about. What I get to do is be a part, truly, of driving the change that our organization has. Because if our team can raise $1 million extra for San Diego Humane Society, that's $1 million extra that goes to fund programs that save lives and change our world. And if I'm not driven by that, and I don't think that's amazing and an unbelievable thing to be a part of, then I think something's wrong with me, and I certainly should be in a different job. What we want to do is invite everyone to having that kind of conversation, that what we're looking to do, and when our community sees this in our work, they see our organization sharing our passion, they will invest more in what we do. So how can we help make this happen? How do we actually get from here to here? One of the things that we do at San Diego Humane Society, and I was really careful in the way that I had to word this slide, is not all meetings. You don't have to talk about the culture of philanthropy in every meeting that you have. But when we have our all staff meeting where we bring everybody together once a year, we are talking about philanthropy. We are talking about it as a priority. We're talking about everyone's role in it. We're making sure everybody sees that. But we don't just talk about it once a year. We have other tools that we build in. I will admit, so for the folks on our team that are on this call, you're like, God, I haven't seen one of these communications in a while. There's one coming. But we send out messages from Gary, our president and CEO, about our culture of philanthropy to our entire team. Because people can see at the top that our CEO and our president is invested in this culture, and we're articulating what everyone's role is in it. We define what that culture is at our new hire orientation through a presentation that we give. And by the way, a lot of the tools for this are all in the Philanthropy Toolkit that was linked.
There's no chance you're going to spend the night out, right?
So we have we have a lot of tools that people can take for you to take a look at what does our new hire orientation look like? How do we talk about this culture of philanthropy? Every single person who starts at our organization, when they come into it on their first day in orientation, is spoken to about this culture. Now, let me put a caveat here. COVID changed that because we don't have this whole in-person orientation, but that is what we do for our organization. Our job is to lead by example in building this culture, making sure everybody knows that they play their part. So, what do I want you all to think about? Are you investing the time and the resources to build this capacity? Not just your programs. When you're talking about your programmatic growth, are you also looking and thinking, how are we going to drive this philanthropically? Because a lot of your programmatic growth, you might look and say, well, if we actually expand this program, how do we do it? It means we have to cut back on this program. So again, philanthropy, by and large, is the main regulator on what we can do. It's my belief it's not going to be growth in municipal contracts that's going to transform what animal welfare can do. If we can convince governments to pay more for these services, that would be fantastic. I'm all for it, and we should move forward as best we can with that. But where we have a massive opportunity right in front of us is in expanding our philanthropic resources. So think about this. Are you investing that time? And are you, in your position, are you a leader in making time to assist in building that culture of philanthropy? So here's another quick poll for you. In your role, are you regularly involved with conversations about donors, about their impact in the organization? And let's be clear, regularly is subjective. So let me just say, are you engaged in any way, shape, or form with those conversations with donors about the impact they have in your organization? Do you strongly agree, disagree, strongly disagree, or have no idea? You've got 15 seconds to hit that answer. You all did really well on the last one, so let's see what comes in on this one. All right, let's pull our poll up and see how we've got it. All right, well, we've got nearly 80% are involved and engaged in that. So we've got a lot of people, which is significantly higher than I was expecting in coming into this. So again, shows me there's some things that are absolutely happening that are along the right lines. So let's look to our last solution for the day, is creating more tools to build this culture, and how can we do that? So again, taking a look at a lot of folks on this call, we're not going to have a poll of, could you have defined a culture of philanthropy? How would you rate your culture on a scale of 1 to 10? What I want everyone to take home with them is this idea of, do we have the culture of philanthropy that we want in our organization? And if not, what do we need to do to get there? And I think it's important to name it. So when we speak of this, and we have multiple cultures, culture of care is on this slide, which is another sort of element that we have about how we work to take care of the people in our organization. So we've named it, we speak about it, that we care about the people that work here. We have a culture of care. We have a culture of philanthropy. We have our overall culture, because organizations have multiple cultures that overlap. Some take priority at different points, but if you don't name it, if we don't call it something, it's really difficult to build it. So asking yourself the question, is everybody built in? Are we building this, and have folks embraced it? If not, what are the things that we need to do to be able to move it there? And I want to talk about 2 examples that we've done at San Diego Humane Society that I think have been absolutely instrumental in building this culture. The first is our campus fundraising initiative, which is a program that we implemented probably about 4 or 5 years ago, where our adoption counselors are trained in how to actually speak to adopters about our organization, about what the impact of philanthropy is, about how their donation can help fuel everything that we do. It's not just getting to the end of the adoption process and saying, you know what, in addition to the adoption fee, would you like to make an additional gift to help us continue with our mission? They've been building to this throughout. That program raised $0. Now it raises $200,000 a year for us. Our Day of Giving is another one. It's similarly $200,000 a year. It used to be a program when we started this. Every year in June, we have our annual Day of Giving, where we invite our staff and our volunteers to share their passion, to not just ask for support, but to share their passion for our organization. And in that Day of Giving, in 4 years' time, we've gone from raising $5,000 the first year we did it to over $200,000 just from our staff and our volunteers connecting with their friends, their family, sharing their passion, doing different fundraisers. And to me, I've never seen anything like it in any other organization I've been a part of. We essentially have an entire month that is dominated by our staff doing fun, amazing, creative things to generate resources for our organization, wanting to be a part of it, being competitive. We have lots of different teams. They're broken out. We have prizes all across the board. And one of the things that's also important about this is one of our top fundraisers is Gary Weitzman, our president and CEO. So everyone sees that at the top of the food chain, Gary's not absolved from this. Gary's in it. He's in there with us. And it's important that everyone sees that. Does everyone participate in it? No. But do a tremendous number of our staff not just participate in it, but embrace it and really love it? Absolutely. So this is coming back to, Ashley sort of talked about this at the start when she went through that continuum of how would you feel in your role if someone on the philanthropy team came and said, we want you to go out and directly raise money for your organization. How would you feel about that if that question were posed to you? Let's see where the temperature of this group is. And actually, this isn't a poll. What I'm asking for you to do is just put that in chat. It's good for me to remember actually what's happening. So what I'm doing now, put it in chat. We'd love to see what people think about this. Does that make you feel uncomfortable? Do you feel good about that? And if this presentation maybe changed your mind, feel free to put that in there too. But I want to get a sense of where people are on that. I also want to run through what some expectations are. So expectations of the philanthropy staff, of all staff, are that we're going to be a part of educating, inspiring, and engaging. For San Diego Humane Society, in every job description, we include a line or lines about their role in our culture of philanthropy. So again, there's no one in the organization that can come in and say, I don't know what this thing is, because it's in their job description. Then they're spoken about it at new hire. Then they hear about it in messaging at staff meetings. They hear about it in messages that come from the president and CEO. They see things like our Day of Giving. They see things like our campus fundraising initiative. Everyone is involved in it. We also work to make sure that everyone understands that every single person who visits any of our campuses, any interaction they have with us, whether that's our humane law enforcement officers out in the public, whether they're at our shelter, whatever it might be, the public and the people that we're dealing with are judging those interactions and determining, is this an organization that's professional, that's passionate, that uses its resources well? Because when we do follow up with them and we do invite them to participate, how amazing our staff is has a direct role and direct correlation into what level of engagement those folks will have. We want to make sure that people know that. We want to create all of the pathways that our medical team, our law enforcement team, our adoptions team can share their incredible stories with the FOMS team, which is what we have called our mashup of marketing, communications, and philanthropy, so that we can tell their stories. We are the raconteurs. We are the ones that do that. And are you, in your role, meeting with the philanthropy team? If they haven't come to you to ask this, then you can go back from this and ask them. Say, hey, I'd love to get together and talk to you about what our key accomplishments were so you can share that news. These are some of our goals for the future. These are the things that we can do so that there is an ongoing dialogue, because every year those conversations should be having about what are the top things we accomplished thanks to philanthropy last year? What are our top 3 things that we're looking at to do this year? Leadership should be trained on how to interact with donors. A shocking number of people on this call said, I know what to do at events. And I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to say something that might piss some of you off. My belief is some of you said yes, but if I actually saw you at an event, I would say you actually didn't do this right. Because most people, if you have not been trained on how to talk to donors, this isn't just walking up and saying, hey, I'm Brian and I work at San Diego Humane Society and this is what we do. This is about engaging them in a strategic conversation, thanking them, making sure that they recognize their support is valued, leaving that conversation in a very different way, and being able to report back to your philanthropy team, this is what I learned about that person. Because we actually use that. We hold on to these things to reach out to them and engage with them. And we've done trainings for our teams to make sure that our staff, when they show up at an event, know how to engage and interact with donors. If you are a leader and you're participating on a donor visit, the philanthropy team should brief you before that event, give you a written briefing outlining what your role is, what's going to actually happen from that meeting. We provide a restricted gift report to our department leads. So if a gift comes in from a donor that's restricted to medical, that's restricted to HLE, that's restricted to community veterinary services, the leader of those different groups get those reports so they actually know the donors that are funding their areas, and they can reach out to them also and thank them, be a part of our stewardship efforts. Involving leadership with visits as appropriate. And we give a lot of donor tours. And this is something I want to say, even if you don't have fundraising staff, everyone should be giving donor tours of your shelter. I'm running out of time, so I'm going to super quickly get through this. Making sure that our teams are trained, bringing passion, positivity, collaboration, and follow through, because none of it matters if we don't follow through.
Brian, can I interrupt you for 2 seconds? I just want to say that people tend to drop off in the last 5 minutes. So would you be sure to talk about next steps now with the Philanthropy Toolkit and the group, so that people that may have to leave early don't miss that? I think it's really important that they know they can talk to you more.
Yeah, so I mean, really, in sort of the last thing, we have a couple of things. At the start of this, we said we want to invite you to sort of join this movement. So there's going to be, it's called a job alike. And it's a philanthropy group that is going to be meeting twice a month. That's going to be sort of an outgrowth of the philanthropy working group that we've had. If you have philanthropy staff that haven't been participating in the philanthropy working group, we would love to have them be a part of it. If you want to be a part of it, we would love you to be a part of it, because what we're looking to do is, again, change how shelters can work. We have the toolkit that's there for you. A lot of time, a lot of work has been built and been spent building that toolkit. Utilize the toolkit, take it. And if there's anything that anybody wants or needs from San Diego Humane Society, if we have it, I will give it to you. This whole idea of holding on to things and not sharing them is ridiculous to me. So everyone doesn't need to recreate the wheel. If we have it, hit me up. I'll give it to you. We'll make fundraising better and easier. And what I really wanted to do was we sort of have this last poll, and I want to bring this up. What is your level of interest in training on philanthropy related topics relevant to your position? I recognize you all don't need to learn how to build direct mail programs and the like, but would you have an interest in doing things like, how do I actually participate to make, if I'm on a donor meeting, to make that effective? Is that of interest? Is that not? Do not feel that Ashley or I's feelings will be hurt if you're like, I have no interest in that. What I want is an honest answer to this, because this might guide what we do with our working group moving forward. All right, let's see what we've got here. All right.
There we go.
Well, thank you all for that. That gives us some sense that there might very well be some interest in that. And what I'm going to do is just kind of close us out now with an adaptation of a slide that I put up earlier, that we have to actually raise the change, because that's a little hand behind there with change in it. I'll fill that gap in for you, to be the change that we want to be. I hope that Ashley and I, what we've covered today, does break down some barriers that people might have, that we're not asking anyone to go out and feel like this is uncomfortable. All we're asking people to do, your life's work is committed to making the world better for animals. Your passion, your ability to talk comfortably about that and to invite others to partner with you and allowing us to make that change is what's going to allow animal welfare to move forward at a faster rate, to do more and to be more. So I'm just going to call it. That's the end of our presentation for today. And thank you everyone for joining in and having some fun with us.
Wow. Thank you so much to both of you for your generosity and willingness to talk about the kind of trade secrets that you've learned that have helped you be successful. I think that in the spirit of Haas, you really both exemplify that so beautifully. This idea that we don't have to act in competition with each other, but we can act to support each other and uphold the work for the betterment of all animals and people. So truly, thank you. We hope people go and check out the toolkit. Next week, we are going to be moving from Philanthropy Week to Pets and Housing Week. And so next week is all about pets and housing. It's about not just evictions, but rental restrictions. We have some reporting on Havry's new report, and we'll be talking in depth about how housing issues are impacting pets, and the numbers are really astounding. So we hope you'll join us throughout all the Haas activities next week, the calls, and we will look forward to seeing you next Friday back here to continue some of the conversation. So I hope everybody has a great weekend, and thanks as always to Maddie's Fund for hosting these calls and for all you do to support so many of us.